Every single day, millions of people wake up, rush through their morning, sit in traffic, grind through a to-do list that never seems to shrink, collapse into bed exhausted, and then do it all over again the next day. They are busy, they are working hard, but somewhere deep down, they have this nagging feeling that they are not actually getting anywhere. Sound familiar? Here's the brutal truth that most productivity advice never tells you. Being busy is not the same as being effective. Checking things off a list is not the same as living with purpose. And no matter how many apps you download, how many hacks you try, or how many motivational videos you watch, nothing changes until something deeper changes first. That something is you. In 1989, a man named Stephen Covey published a book that would go on to sell over 40 million copies worldwide. It has been translated into 50 languages. It has been read by presidents, CEOs, and everyday people who were simply tired of feeling like life was happening to them instead of for them. That book is called The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. And in the next 30 minutes, we are going to go through every single habit in a way that actually makes sense, in a way you can use starting today. But before we get into the habits, we need to talk about something Covey believed was the root cause of almost every personal and professional problem people face. He called it a paradigm. A paradigm is simply the way you see the world. It is your mental map. It is the lens through which you interpret everything that happens to you. And here is what most people never realize. Your map might be wrong. Imagine you are in a city, trying to find a specific street. You have a map in your hand, and you are following it perfectly, but you cannot find the street. You walk faster. You try harder. You become more and more frustrated. But what if the problem is not your effort? What if you have a map of Chicago, but you are actually standing in Detroit? No amount of effort or positive thinking will get you where you want to go if your map is fundamentally wrong. This is what Covey calls the inside-out approach. Most people try to change their lives from the outside in. They change their job, their partner, their city, their appearance. They look for quick fixes and shortcuts. But Covey argues that lasting change, real transformation, always starts on the inside. It starts with your character, your values, and the way you see yourself and the world around you. You have to fix the map first. Covey distinguishes between what he calls the personality ethic and the character ethic. The personality ethic is the idea that success comes from image, technique, and attitude. It is the world of manipulation, of impression management, of saying the right things to get what you want. The character ethic, on the other hand, is the belief that real success comes from integrity, humility, courage, and justice. It is slow. It is not glamorous, but it is the only foundation that actually holds. He uses a metaphor that is so simple, it almost feels too obvious. But once you hear it, you cannot unhear it. He calls it the P and PC balance. P stands for production. PC stands for production capability. Think about Aesop's fable of the goose and the golden egg. You have a goose that lays golden eggs every day. If you only care about the golden eggs, you might overfeed the goose, stress it out, push it too hard, and eventually the goose dies. No more goose, no more golden eggs. But if you only care for the goose and never harvest the eggs, you starve. Effectiveness requires balance between the two. Your golden eggs are the results you want. The goose is your capacity to produce those results. Whether the goose is your health, your relationships, your knowledge, or your energy, you have to take care of it. With that foundation in place, let us talk about the 7 habits. Covey organizes them beautifully. Habits 1, 2, and 3 move you from dependence to independence. They are about self-mastery. Habits 4, 5, and 6 move you from independence to interdependence. They are about working with other people. And habit 7 ties it all together through continuous renewal. Every habit builds on the one before it. Let us start with the first one. Habit 1 is be proactive. This might sound like the most obvious advice in the world. Of course you should be proactive. But Covey means something far deeper than just taking initiative. Being proactive starts with a philosophical idea. Between what happens to you and how you respond to it, there is a gap. In that gap is your freedom to choose, and your life is ultimately the sum of all the choices you make in that gap. Most people live reactively. Something happens, and they respond on autopilot. Someone cuts them off in traffic, and they feel rage. Their boss criticizes their work, and they feel crushed. It is as if the stimulus directly causes the response, with no choice in between. Covey calls these people reactive, not because they are bad people, but because they have given their power away to external circumstances. Proactive people recognize that while they cannot control everything that happens to them, they can always control how they respond. Their mood is not controlled by the weather. Their happiness is not controlled by other people's behavior. Their self-worth is not determined by someone else's opinion. Covey introduces a tool to help you see this clearly. He calls it the circle of concern and the circle of influence. Your circle of concern contains everything that you worry about. The economy, the news, your neighbor's opinions, things that happened 10 years ago. Your circle of influence contains everything you can actually do something about. Your habits, your attitude, your effort, your words. Here is the critical insight. Reactive people spend most of their time and energy in the circle of concern. They obsess over things they cannot change, and as a result, their circle of influence actually shrinks. They feel more helpless, more victimized, more stuck. Proactive people do the opposite. They focus their energy on their circle of influence, and something amazing happens. As they do this, their circle of influence begins to grow. They become more effective. They gain more control. More and more of what was once outside their control moves inside it. How do you practice this? Start by paying attention to your language. Reactive language sounds like this. There is nothing I can do. That is just how I am. They will not allow that. I have to do this. Proactive language sounds like this. Let me look at my options. I can choose a different approach. I control how I feel. I will find a way. I choose to do this. These are not just words. They reveal and reinforce your fundamental belief about where your power lives. Change the language, and you begin to change the mindset. Practice being proactive for 30 days in just one area of your life. Not the biggest area, a small one. Notice what happens. Notice how your energy shifts when you stop spending it on things you cannot control and start investing it in things you can. This is the foundation. Everything else is built on it. Now, habit 2. Begin with the end in mind. This habit is about vision. It is about having a clear picture of where you want to go before you start walking. Covey argues that all things are created twice. There is the mental creation that happens in your mind, and then there is the physical creation that happens in the real world. Every building was once a blueprint. Every speech was once a thought. Every great life was once a vision. If you do not have a clear mental creation, the physical creation will be shaped by accident, by other people's agendas, or by whatever is loudest and most urgent in the moment. Covey uses a powerful exercise to drive this point home. He asks you to imagine attending a funeral. You walk into the room, you see the flowers, the people gathering. You make your way to the front and look inside the casket, and you realize the person in the casket is you. This is your funeral 3 years from now. 4 people are going to speak about your life. 1 from your family, 1 from your close friends, 1 from your work, 1 from your community. The question is this: what do you want them to say? What do you want them to say? What kind of person do you want to have been? What do you want to have contributed? What difference do you want to have made? This is not a morbid exercise. It is a clarity exercise, because when you know how you want to be remembered, you instantly have a compass for every decision you make today. Does this action align with the person I want to be? Does this choice move me toward or away from the life I actually want? Covey recommends writing a personal mission statement. This is a document that captures your core values, your purpose, and the principles you want to live by. He is not talking about a corporate mission statement full of buzzwords. He is talking about something deeply personal, something that when you read it, feels true to who you are at your best. A personal mission statement might include what roles matter most to you: father, friend, creator, leader, and how you want to show up in each of those roles. It might capture what you stand for and what you will not compromise on. The point is not to write something perfect. The point is to get intentional. Because without a clear vision for your own life, you end up living someone else's. Habit 3 is put first things first. If habit 1 says you are the programmer, and habit 2 says write the program, then habit 3 says run the program. It is about execution. It is about making sure that the way you actually spend your time matches what you said matters most to you. Covey introduces one of the most powerful tools in the book here. He calls it the time management matrix, but it is better known as the Eisenhower matrix. Every activity in your life falls into one of 4 quadrants based on 2 factors. Is it urgent, and is it important? Quadrant 1 contains things that are both urgent and important. Crises, deadlines, emergencies. These are the fires you have to put out right now. Nobody can avoid this quadrant entirely, but people who live here chronically are stressed, burned out, and always in survival mode. Quadrant 2 contains things that are important, but not urgent. Strategic planning, exercise, relationship building, learning, prevention. This is where proactive people live. This is where the most valuable activities of your life happen. But because they are not screaming at you, it is easy to neglect them. Quadrant 3 contains things that are urgent, but not important. Most interruptions, many emails, most meetings that could have been an email. These feel important because they are urgent, but they are someone else's priorities, not yours. Quadrant 4 contains things that are neither urgent nor important. Mindless scrolling, trivial busy work, time-wasting habits. This is the quadrant of pure escape. Most people spend the majority of their time in quadrants 1, 3, and 4. They are constantly reacting to what is urgent, getting pulled into other people's priorities, and escaping from stress with trivial distractions. And they wonder why they never feel like they are making progress on the things that actually matter. Effective people ruthlessly protect their time in quadrant 2. They plan, they prepare, they prevent problems before they become crises. They invest in relationships before those relationships become strained. They exercise before their health demands it. They learn before they desperately need to. This is the quadrant that makes everything else easier. The practical step here is to schedule your quadrant 2 activities first. Do not wait for time to appear. It will not appear. You have to create it. Block time on your calendar for the things that matter most. Your health, your most important projects, your key relationships, your personal development. Everything else fits around them, not the other way around. And here is a mindset shift that makes all the difference. You cannot manage time. You can only manage yourself. Time moves at exactly the same speed for everyone. The question is what you choose to do with it, and whether those choices align with what you say you value most. Now we cross a bridge. Habits 1, 2, and 3 were about personal mastery. They were about winning what Covey calls the private victory. The next 3 habits are about winning the public victory. They are about how you work with other people. And habit 4 is the starting point. Habit 4 is think win-win. Covey identifies 6 different paradigms for human interaction. Win-win, where both people benefit. Win-lose, where I win and you lose. Lose-win, where I cave and let you win because I want to keep the peace. Lose-lose, where we both destroy each other out of spite. Win, where I just focus on what I want and do not care about you. And win-win or no deal, where we either find a solution that works for both of us, or we agree to disagree and walk away. Most of us were raised in a win-lose world. Schools grade on curves. Sports have winners and losers. Promotions go to one person. We were trained to see resources, recognition, and success as scarce, and to see other people as competition. This scarcity mindset is deeply ingrained, and it poisons almost every relationship and negotiation we enter. Win-win is rooted in an abundance mentality, the belief that there is enough for everyone, that someone else's success does not diminish mine, that we can actually both come out better than we went in. This is not naive. This is not about always giving people what they want. Win-win is courageous. It requires you to be clear about what you need, while also being genuinely curious about what the other person needs, and to be creative enough to find a solution that honors both. Think about a disagreement you have had recently, maybe with a coworker, a partner, a family member. Which paradigm were you operating from? Were you trying to win? Were you trying to keep the peace even at the cost of your own needs? Or were you genuinely trying to find a solution that worked for both of you? Covey says that if you cannot find a win-win solution, the best option is often no deal. It is better to walk away from an agreement than to enter one that breeds resentment. And resentment is what you always get when one side feels they lost. Win-win is not just ethical, it is practical. Because agreements built on mutual benefit last. They create trust, and trust is the foundation of every effective relationship. He introduces a concept called the emotional bank account. Think of every relationship as a bank account made of trust. When you make deposits, you build trust. Deposits are things like keeping your promises, showing kindness, being honest, apologizing when you are wrong, and listening without judgment. Withdrawals are the opposite. Breaking promises, being unkind, being dishonest, and being dismissive. The balance in this account determines the quality of the relationship. When the balance is high, communication is easy. Mistakes are forgiven quickly. When the balance is low, even small issues become major conflicts. If you want better relationships, start making more deposits. And if your accounts are overdrawn right now, the first step is to acknowledge it and start making amends. Habit 5 is, seek first to understand, then to be understood. Covey calls this the single most important principle in the area of interpersonal relationships, and most of us are terrible at it. We do not listen to understand, we listen to reply. While the other person is still talking, we are already forming our response. We are thinking about how their words relate to our own experience. We are waiting for a pause, so we can jump in with our own story, our own advice, our own solution. Covey describes 4 levels of listening: ignoring, which is not listening at all; pretend listening, where you nod and say uh-huh while thinking about something else; selective listening, where you only hear the parts that interest you; and attentive listening, where you actually focus on the words being said. But the highest level, the one most of us almost never reach, is empathic listening. Empathic listening means you are listening with the intent to understand, not just the words, but the feelings behind the words. You are not just hearing what someone says, you are trying to understand how they see the world. Here is why this is so hard. We tend to respond to other people from our own autobiography. We filter everything through our own experiences, our own assumptions, our own emotional state. When someone shares a problem with us, we immediately start giving advice based on what we would do. But we have not taken the time to understand their situation deeply enough to give relevant advice. Covey uses a medical analogy that makes this very clear. Imagine you go to the eye doctor with a vision problem. The doctor listens for about 30 seconds, then takes off his own glasses and hands them to you. He says, "Try these, they work great for me." Would you trust that doctor? Of course not. A doctor who prescribes without first diagnosing is not being helpful. He is being dangerous. The same is true in every interaction. Prescription before diagnosis is a problem in every area of life. Empathic listening is a skill. It takes practice. The first step is to slow down, to genuinely set aside your own agenda when someone is talking to you, to focus entirely on them, to reflect back what you are hearing, not just the words but the emotion. To say something like, "It sounds like you are feeling overwhelmed by this," rather than immediately jumping to solutions. When people feel truly heard, something remarkable happens. They relax, they open up, they become more receptive. And then, and only then, do they become willing to hear you. Once you have established genuine understanding, now you can seek to be understood. Now you can share your perspective with clarity and confidence, knowing that the other person trusts that you have genuinely listened. In negotiations, in conflicts, in everyday conversations, this habit alone can transform the quality of your relationships and your results. The irony is that the more patient you are about being understood, the more effectively you communicate. Because people only hear you when they feel heard first. Habit 6 is Synergize. This is the habit of creative cooperation, and it builds directly on habits 4 and 5. Synergy is a word that gets thrown around a lot and has almost lost its meaning. But Covey gives it a precise definition. Synergy means that the whole is greater than the sum of its parts. It equals 3, or 5, or 10, or something completely new that neither person could have created alone. Think about how a tree grows. The root goes deep into the earth, and the branch extends toward the sky. Neither the root nor the branch alone is as strong as the tree they create together. That is synergy. Two people who genuinely value their differences, who approach a problem with curiosity rather than defensiveness, who are creative enough to look beyond their original positions, can consistently arrive at solutions that neither of them would have found on their own. But here is the problem. Most of us are deeply uncomfortable with difference. When someone sees a situation differently than we do, our first instinct is to try to convince them that we are right, or to compromise, which means we both give something up and arrive at a mediocre middle ground. Covey says compromise is 1 + 1 = 1.5. Synergy is 1 + 1 = something far greater. Synergy requires all of the previous habits working together. You have to be proactive and open to new perspectives. You have to be clear on your values and your end goal. You have to prioritize the relationship. You have to approach the other person with a genuine desire to understand them. And then, from that foundation of trust and deep mutual understanding, you open up the creative process. You say, "I see it this way, and you see it differently. Let us see if we can find a third alternative that is better than either of our original ideas." This is not easy. It requires a high degree of security in your own identity. Because if your self-worth is tied to being right, you will never be able to genuinely embrace someone else's perspective. But if you are secure in who you are, difference becomes exciting rather than threatening. You start to see it as a source of creative energy. The most innovative companies, the strongest teams, the most resilient marriages are all built on synergy. They are built on people who celebrate their differences, who trust each other deeply enough to be vulnerable, and who are committed enough to the shared goal to move beyond their individual comfort zones. Look at a team, a relationship, or a situation in your own life right now where there is tension or stagnation. Ask yourself, are we just arguing about our positions? Are we compromising and ending up with a watered-down result? Or are we genuinely curious about each other's perspectives and open to a third alternative we have not thought of yet? The difference between those three approaches is the difference between conflict, mediocrity, and genuine transformation. And that brings us to the final habit, the one that makes all the others possible. Habit 7 is sharpen the saw. And it is, in many ways, the most important habit of all, because without it, the other 6 will slowly decay. Covey tells the story of a man who is frantically sawing down a tree. A passerby watches him for a while, and then asks how long he has been at it. The man says, 5 hours, I am exhausted. The passerby suggests he stop and sharpen his saw. The man says, I do not have time to sharpen the saw, I am too busy sawing. This is the trap that most people fall into. They are so busy producing, so caught up in the urgent demands of daily life, that they never invest time in maintaining the very tool that makes production possible. And that tool is you. Covey identifies 4 dimensions of renewal: the physical dimension, the mental dimension, the social and emotional dimension, and the spiritual dimension. These are not 4 separate things. They are 4 interconnected aspects of a single human being. When one area is neglected, all the others suffer. And when all 4 are nourished consistently, the effect is compounding. You get better not just at surviving, but at thriving. The physical dimension is your body. This means consistent exercise, proper nutrition, adequate sleep, and stress management. Most people treat their body like a rental car. They push it hard without maintaining it, and then wonder why it breaks down. Covey says exercise is one of the highest leverage activities a person can do. A 30-minute walk, done consistently, improves your energy, your mood, your focus, and your resilience. It sharpens every other blade you have. And most people say they do not have time for it. But consider this. If you are too busy to exercise, you are too busy. Exercise does not steal time from your life. It gives time back by making you sharper, healthier, and more energetic for everything else. The mental dimension is your mind. This means continuous learning. Reading, studying, writing, analyzing. Covey was famously committed to reading for at least an hour every day. He understood that your knowledge and perspective are your most valuable assets, and like any asset, they require ongoing investment. The person who reads 1 book a month will think differently in 3 years than someone who has not read a book since school. The world changes fast. The people who grow fastest are the ones who keep learning. The social and emotional dimension is about your relationships and your emotional intelligence. It means renewing yourself through meaningful connections, through service to others, through honest and vulnerable communication. It means taking care of your emotional bank accounts. It means forgiving others. It means building and maintaining deep trust with the people who matter most to you. Your emotional health is not separate from your effectiveness. It is central to it. You cannot sustain high performance in a state of emotional depletion or relational breakdown. The spiritual dimension is about your core values and your sense of purpose. This does not necessarily mean religion, though for many people it does. It means connecting regularly with what matters most to you. It might be meditation, prayer, time in nature, journaling, or simply sitting in silence and asking yourself whether the life you are living is aligned with the life you want to live. Covey believed deeply that a life lived without clear values is a life that will ultimately feel hollow, no matter how much it achieves by external measures. The genius of habit 7 is that it is not just one habit among 7. It is the habit that enhances all the other habits. When you take care of your body, your energy for habits 1 through 6 increases. When you sharpen your mind, your judgment, creativity, and problem solving all improve. When you invest in your relationships, your ability to apply habits 4, 5, and 6 deepens naturally. When you renew your spirit, your sense of purpose, your proactivity, and your commitment to your values all become stronger. Covey describes this as the upward spiral. Each time you renew yourself, you are not just maintaining your current level, you are actually growing. You are becoming more capable, more wise, more effective, more patient. And as you do, each cycle of renewal takes you higher than the last. The habits feed each other. Growth in one area stimulates growth in all the others. And gradually, almost imperceptibly at first, your life begins to transform. Now let us bring it all together. Because these 7 habits are not a checklist, they are not 7 separate techniques you can pick and choose from. They are an integrated system. Each habit builds on the one before it, and none of them stands alone. Habit 1 gives you the foundation. You are responsible. You have the power to choose. No one and nothing outside of you determines your response to life. This is the beginning of everything. Without it, none of the other habits matter, because without taking responsibility, you will always find someone or something else to blame for your results. Habit 2 gives you direction. You know where you are going. You have a clear picture of the life you want to live and the person you want to be. Without this, all the energy in the world just takes you somewhere you did not intend to go. Habit 3 gives you the discipline to actually do it. To say no to the urgent and unimportant, so you can say yes to the important. To protect your time ruthlessly, because time is the only resource that once spent, you can never recover. Habits 4, 5, and 6 transform how you work with other people. You stop seeing relationships as zero-sum. You start genuinely listening. You start creating solutions that are bigger than either person could have found alone. And in doing so, you unlock the most powerful force for human achievement there is. Real, trust-based cooperation. And habit 7 keeps the whole engine running. It ensures that you do not burn out, that you do not become the woodcutter who is too busy sawing to sharpen his blade. That you continuously invest in the 4 dimensions of your own humanity, so that every day you are a slightly better version of yourself than you were yesterday. Covey believed that character, not personality, not technique, is the foundation of lasting effectiveness. He believed that how you treat people in private, when there is no audience, no applause, no reward, is the truest measure of who you are. He believed that integrity, the alignment between what you say and what you do, between what you value and how you live, is not just a moral virtue, it is the most practical thing in the world. Because when you live with integrity, you build trust, and trust is the fastest, most efficient medium of human interaction. It removes friction, it enables collaboration, it makes everything work better. Here is the final truth. Most people spend their whole lives looking for the shortcut, the hack, the technique, the magic formula that will unlock success without requiring them to change. Covey spent his life arguing that there is no such shortcut, that the only path to real, lasting effectiveness is through character development, through becoming, slowly and with great patience and humility, the kind of person whose habits naturally produce great results. The 7 habits are not about what you do, they are about who you are. And who you are is something you build, day by day, choice by choice, in the gap between stimulus and response. You already know what kind of person you want to be. You know it because when you imagine your own funeral, you already know what you want people to say. The question is whether you are willing to start living that way today, not when things get easier, not when you have more time, not when the circumstances are perfect. Today, with the life you have, in the situation you are in, right now. Begin with the end in mind. Put first things first. Be proactive. Seek first to understand. Think win-win. Synergize. And never ever stop sharpening the saw. That is the path. It is not glamorous, it is not quick, but it is real. And for the 40 million people who have taken it seriously, it has made all the difference.